Ready.
Justin, middle of the field, 45, 50. Green grass in front of him, leaving Lions in his wake.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes! Brisker!
What was it like playing for Coach Dicka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
61 yards! A Sunday stroll for Justin Fields.
Oh, wow.
And
Now, Bears Etc. with the voices of the Chicago Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
Time again for Bears Etc. here. Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer, the Super Bowl winning Bear. We'll preview the Bears and Buccaneers in Tampa. Hope everybody's doing okay. Coming up in the program, a conversation with NFL royalty, Tom. We got a Bears icon, the great Hall of Fame middle linebacker, Dick Butkus.
I know there's one story that he didn't tell you that I've asked him before in life that I would like to contribute to.
Okay, we'll talk about it afterward. Up here at Hallis Hall, getting ready for week 2. They will come quickly here now that the season is underway. Let's get you caught up on the latest news. Right now, the injury report. No idea what Kyler Gordon's hand injury is. They are not saying at this time. Also, Josh Blackwell, who is the backup nickel, also on the injury report, so there could be some real shuffling going on here. Tyreek Stevenson, Tom, did play nickel at Georgia before he went to Miami of Florida. Jalen Jones also played nickel last year against the Jets. There are options, but against this team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that big slot Chris Godwin, that's a tall order.
Yeah, but, something we've grown used to from last year. The defensive backs all had a chance to play and contribute in some way, shape, or form, from special teams to regular snaps on defense. So I don't think of anybody other than a rookie it would be a great shock for them to either move position or to contribute somewhere, or maybe even have a little bit of a revolving defensive backfield so the guys are fresh according to what down and distance and what position they play.
Bears head coach Matt Eberflus earlier at Hallis Hall on his comfort level, and Josh Blackwell.
Yeah, we're just looking at all of our options, but in terms of with Blackwell himself, in terms of the comment about last year, it's invaluable, right, to be able to be out there and know the position. As we said before, there's a lot of detail to the position, that nickel spot, and he's done a good job in there. He's been a good special teamer for us, and if we go that route, he'll do a nice job.
Terrell Smith be another, or who are those other options, if not John?
Yeah, I'm not going to divulge the other options right now, but we certainly like what we have.
All right, another topic of conversation is Chase Claypool, Tom, a big topic, actually. Eberflus says he did visit with Claypool after the game about his perimeter blocking, showed the technique in practice. We raved about him during training camp, digging out linebackers, making big blocks. I know you were very happy with his progress during training camp, and after you watched the tape and watched how he played on Sunday against Green Bay, certainly you understand why some of these conversations are being taken place.
Yeah, but, technically it's one of the most difficult blocks to make because there's a separation anywhere between 5 and 15 yards of ultimate the collision point of that block. The thing that you need to do is you need to do it full speed because you know exactly where the design of the play is supposed to hit. So if you attack a defensive back and you make him take the longest path possible to get to the ball carrier, then that could increase the amount of yards you have at contact or put the tackler in the most difficult position. So to me, when I look at it, everybody has a hand in the evaluation now through all your new day social media. If you know the play or you don't know the play, you don't know the point of attack, you don't know the exact design of where the technique is supposed to happen. To me, it's more about the type of effort you give at the line of scrimmage to the point of block. And so that's what I need to see going forward is more effort, but more effort out of everybody. I'm not going to isolate Chase Claypool and say he's the reason the offense wasn't successful, because I saw him do it at practice at a really high level. And that's what he has to do because, Chase Claypool is always going to be talked about size first. So when you have that 6'4 plus frame and you're hitting a defensive back that's going to be smaller than you, then you expect that Chase Claypool be in control of the collision.
Here's Matt Eberflus and then Justin Fields on Claypool.
I would just say everything comes down to technique. It's about technique. And it's really about when you're blocking the perimeter like that, you have to have good technique, right? And, he's displayed good technique in practice on that. And that's why we had him in those positions. But perimeter blocking is all about technique. It's all about your angles, and it's all about your intensity for sure. And it's always about that. And it doesn't matter if you're push cracking on a linebacker or cracking down on somebody inside. That's what it's always about.
I think the biggest thing is, just having that same mentality as you did in camp, and just, keep working hard every day, and just keep going. Of course, he probably didn't have the game he wanted to have. Probably wanted to have more catches, and we all probably didn't have the game that we wanted to have. But just keep working, keep getting better, and I think that's the theme of this week. The theme of today is work towards 1-0 on Saturday or Sunday, and just get ready to play.
And Tommy, Justin was also asked about his relationship with Equimanius St. Brown, who was inactive for the game, and just what he brings to the table. Let's listen in.
He's a great run blocker for us. He always has been since last year. And he knows the playbook like the back of his hand. He's really smart. And I think he's a leader in the receiver room. So just that part, perimeter blocking, he's really good at that. So I think that's probably one thing that we missed. I mean, he's savvy, knows how to change directions pretty good, quality hands, and like I said, he's always gonna be on time with the quarterback. He's gonna run the right route at the right depth, and be at the right place at the right time. So I mean, you just get dependability on him, and he's very reliable in the pass game. So
yeah, these are comparisons the media is making. EQ St. Brown out. Will Claypool be on the field on Sunday? That yet to be determined. But head coach Matt Eberflus and the fellas will sort all that out against Tampa Bay down in South Florida. Overall, though, opening up the passing game certainly is something that's on everybody's mind.
Yeah, and Justin made reference to the fact that EQ knows this playbook like the back of his hand. And that's one thing every single player on this offensive side of the ball should have, is a great knowledge of the offense that they've been installing since OTAs. But it's about the performance on Sunday that is really going to be the judgment of how well you play. And so if EQ St. Brown is the next man up, and that mentality that's all around the NFL, that if they do put him in there and he has those perimeter blocks that factor in outside run zone plays or screens, EQ has to come up with some big type of blocks.
And Justin talking about agreeing that he needs to take some shots down the field.
Yeah, for sure. That's one thing I talked to Luke and Coach about, is just, I felt like I was a little bit too conservative at times during the game. So, definitely with, guys like DJ and Chase on the outside, if, we do have one-on-one on the outside, potentially throwing it up and, seeing what happens. So, with them, they're great playmakers, and, they can, most likely come up with a 50-50 ball. So, definitely, want to give them, more chances deep down the field.
And I know this is something that's big for you for this matchup against Tampa Bay, Tommy, pushing that ball down the field.
Listen, if you have the luxury of time, if you can get yourself into an open throwing lane, if you recognize that there's single man coverage at one of the receivers from DJ to whomever's on the field, you got to throw into a smaller window of opportunity and rely the receiver to either go up and make the catch, don't allow the defensive back to make a catch, or do something spectacular.
Right now, when you spend over $29.99 at Steinhoffel's, you'll score a $100 Bears Pro Shop gift card. Visit any one of the 4 Chicagoland locations: Vernon Hills, Crystal Lake, Downers Grove, and Harwood Heights, or shop online at steinhoffels.com. Jeff and Tom here on Bears Etc. podcast. Coming up in moments, the great Dick Butkus. Also on the injury report from a Tampa perspective, a shoulder. He did practice, though, for Baker Mayfield. A rugged performance against Minnesota, winning on the road. It was kind of an ugly offensive first half. They couldn't get anything done. They blitzed him mercilessly, and he still managed to make plays, big ones down the stretch, including closing out the game and never giving the ball back to Minnesota to have one final crack at it. What impresses you at all about their offense at the moment? Because you must begin the conversation with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
Mike Evans, that's where my concern is, because anytime that you're told by the team that you're expected to go out and give 100% for, that we're not going to re-sign you and give you the contract that you're asking for, it's almost like a challenge for Baker Mayfield. Hey, how can I keep Mike Evans involved in this game plan? Give him more opportunities. He was targeted 10 times this week, and you're going to you're going to give him opportunities. I think that Mike Evans has developed a reputation that even if he's covered, he's not covered, because he's got that huge frame that is willing to go up and compete for the football at its highest point. Chris Godwin has always been a heck of a receiver, and I think he's a great compliment to Mike Evans. And when you look at Baker Mayfield, he keeps everybody involved, and Baker Mayfield has lived on the injury report. So I don't think the shoulder concerns is going to say, oh my God, maybe he will not take as many snaps. He will. And, Tampa always keeps the tight end involved, and the tight end has had some success against the Bears. But to me, it's running game through Mike Evans, and to see how they can protect. And the offensive line, without Ryan Jensen, their biggest asset on the football field. When you think about Tristan Wirfs, their great right tackle, he's moved to left tackle and had to get some advice during the offseason, but he's also going through some growing pains. So I do think the Bears have some attackability if they do want to take some chances and putting pressure on Baker Mayfield, because he doesn't have that blazing speed and that athleticism that so many quarterbacks are gifted with. So try to make him look small and trying to throw in the tight spaces.
Vikings blitzed a lot. They really did. Are you open to blitzing?
Well, it's different. The Vikings were playing at home. The crowd noise is an assistant there, unlike a lot of stadiums in the NFL. So if I can make their snap count and their offensive line look dysfunctional, then I can take some chances. So yeah, I am willing to take some chances. Look, 0-2 doesn't sound good. 1-1 really gets you back on track. So if you're looking at offense and Justin talking about taking some chances downfield, you'd have to look at the defense as well.
So a guy who knows Tampa better than anybody, DJ Moore. So 19 targets, 13 catches last season in 2 games against Tampa, 2 touchdowns, nearly 200 yards against similar defensive players. I'm not sure who picked him up or how they worked coverage over there. Carlton Davis was not in those 2 games. So he is usually the guy that goes with the number 1. But that'll be interesting, all that conversation after just 2 targets and 2 catches last week against Green Bay. Another note on Evans. The amazing part of his career, 9 straight 1,000-yard seasons to start a career.
Right.
2 shy of the all-time Jerry Rice record of 11. Randy Moss had 10. And you mentioned the tight end, K. Dotton, led all rookies last year with 42 catches. 3rd in yards at 391, and the offense kind of rolls through him with their new offensive coordinator, Dave Canellis, who came over from Seattle. So they brought some Seattle coaches over as well. They hung up 20 points on the road against Minnesota.
Real quick, though, one thing going forward, I think each week when we talk about the defense, it's not necessarily how and whom they're going to cover DJ Moore with. How are they going to attack Justin Fields? Because you're talking about probably the best athlete on the Bears offense is the one that they have to contain the most. To me, the next subject that's going to come out of your mouth is going to be about exactly that.
Yeah, exactly. So what are we looking at? We're going to be looking at blitzes.
Well, hey, listen, Todd Bowles, he proved it in the Super Bowl that he has the ability to sit these guys on the quarterback from unexpected angles that affect your peripheral vision when you see pressure coming at you. You see guys in the defensive second level coming and trying to sneak up into the gaps, but show themselves in the gaps. So that interferes with your pass protection. If you think, okay, I have an inexperienced running back that has to block one of these talented linebackers, you're automatically thinking during the cadence, I probably got to get the ball out of my hand a little quicker. Second play of the game this past week against the Minnesota Vikings, they blitz your guy Winfield for a sack caused fumble. So Todd Bowles, like I say, he'll never be in a 3-point stance, but he could be the biggest factor on defense.
Yep, he makes all the calls. So when you see Vita Vea coming off the line of scrimmage with heavy hands, he's got a rare combo of power, and despite being 6'4", he's got leverage coming out of his stance. He'll control gaps. He is a load to deal with. Is that where it all begins for them defensively? Because he can collapse the pocket too and be there for 3 downs and ruin your run game and collapse the pocket, whereas you have to push up or push out and you get extended into those edge rushers.
Well, you got to figure Vita Vea, he measures at 6'4", like you said. He probably comes off the ball more at about 5'11".
Wow.
So the first thing that the offensive line coach should be preaching to every offensive lineman, if he's your responsibility, make sure you block the line of scrimmage before you try to go to the second level if you have a combination block. So right now that has extended time at the line of scrimmage by 2 offensive linemen, and then you're talking about these linebackers having that extra second to run free. And that's the thing that can really hurt you in this defense is the ability of these linebackers to run. So Vita Vea, yeah, you got to try to get some movement on them. Why are they the best run-stopping defensive line in the NFL? Because he takes multiple blockers for an extended period of time.
And those linebackers are both former Pro Bowlers. Devin White on the weak side and Levante David, the senior member of the Bucs defense, now 33, and he still can move. Good news, Chicago. United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. While we're talking about linebackers, no better way than to talk about number 51. He walks with a cane now. Looks great, though. Wonderful to visit with and talk about a full life lived with Dick Butkus. He thrived, Tommy, in an era of toughness, grit, bloody hands, mud. Made for NFL theater, that's for sure, and captured and persevered for perpetuity by NFL films. Our memories of a marauding 6'3", 240-pounder, a growling middle linebacker patrolling the Bears' defense linger and intrigue. My conversation with the great Dick Butkus.
In a way, I wish I was able to play today, but then again, maybe not. Maybe I liked it the way it was back there. To me, that was professional football, playing on a baseball field that literally went from one end zone down to the other, and then 2 feet later, you're going to hit a brick wall and a chipped Bronco brick there, and somebody said we had a locker room back there, too small for a wrestling team. It just, I just really liked it. It was, to me, the real stuff, the real pros.
You barely played on grass.
Oh, after a couple of weeks, they painted it.
Yeah.
It was actually, we practiced there, so you heard that term like with sheep. Other farmers didn't like sheep because they compacted the ground from walking because of their hoofs. And that's what we did with our spikes. It was literally just dirt and paint. And then, what was it, the southeast corner were, big 2x2s or 4x4s covering the corner of the visitor's dugout to finish the end zone. So the corner over there was boards over the dugout. And then they would go, their locker room would be above. They'd go through the dugout and then walk upstairs and then to this room, and then all the fans are there throwing at them. And they used to do that to us over at County Stadium too. They finally put like tarpaulin or something inside the fence because they'd throw at you as you walk by.
That was an era of the intimacy of the game.
Yeah.
Because the fans are right on top of you.
Yeah.
Wrigley Field.
And you'd get there and there'd be a couple kids, you bring them in with you. Yeah, he's coming in with me, to the game. And it was all cool, You didn't have to go through all these. Jesus, yesterday, you think I was going under a lockdown at the White House.
But so to you, it's something like a romanticist's view of what the game was born to be.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
You weren't thinking so much of the exposure that you were presenting like today, but imagine the TV, and the crowds, the viewership, the Super Bowl, our most watched show. Back then, it wasn't like that. But I don't know. I traditionalist or whatever call me. I loved it back then.
But let me pose this question to you though.
Yep.
So 6'3", 240-pound linebacker,
Yeah.
who would have been prepared differently, both by training, nutrition, injuries would be treated differently, surgeries would be treated differently. What kind of linebacker would you have been?
There's a guy named Arthur Jones who, when I retired, when I moved to Florida, I started working with him, and he's the guy who invented the Nautilus equipment. And he was a no bullshit guy. To go through a real Nautilus workout it's a bit to do it right. He took me through a couple, and I, made it a point to get through. And he said if I would have gotten you when you were like 19, he said they would have to bar you from playing. He said because that 260, you could have been weighing 270 and been a lot stronger and faster and everything else. And I already had the skill of the game, You could take two guys and, okay, granted, a proper training, strength training and all that is good, but if this guy doesn't have some inkling of how to play the damn game, you
Right.
got a big guy that's an oaf that can't play. And so that's the only thing I was lacking, the proper training, although I thought I was, I would work out.
But you
and
didn't
do
lift
things.
weights much, did you?
No,
Yeah.
I didn't lift weights because when I was like 8 or 9 years old at Griffin Natatorium on the south side, that was where we swam, is the city pool. And we were on the swim team, so we got an extra, you'd have the normal swim, then they'd empty out the pool and wait till everybody goes, and then we'd go back and practice for swim meets and everything. So in the meantime, while they're waiting for the pool to empty, people, we're back there fooling around with weights, and I had this weight over me, and I fell backwards, and I fractured like my wrist. And I said, that's the end of that. So what I was actually doing when I was like 15, I started working as a furniture mover, and that was my weightlifting, and it was, there's two different ways. What we call, positive is like if you're raising a weight, and then lowering it is called like negative. Where you can lower about 30 to 40% more weight than you could lift. And Arthur used to take me right through a whole negative workout where you just lower the weight. And you talk about wanting to feel stiff the next day. So when I was working with him, we did an experiment at West Point. And the reason we chose West Point, well, first of all, the strength coach there was a Nautilus guy, proponent. So we went there also because those kids, those cadets, you tell them to run through that wall and they'll try to do it for you. Because that's the kind of workout it is, to do it properly. So we start, and we're hoping we're going to get some first-string football players for him and really help them, and I forget the coach's name, but he was scared, so he gave us like all the, second, third teamers. But still, they were cadets, and they still had that desire. So the first couple of days, they couldn't get to the second or third machine without throwing up or having their pulse go like up at that 220, almost a fibrillation. By the end of the 16 workouts, they were able to go through the whole thing and not get their pulse over 175, and they like tripled their strength. So, Shula actually bought the stuff, and he helped move the equipment in with the Dolphins. So it was a great experience for him, but it was after I was done.
Fact.
And I'm like, God. So to hear like Tremaine talk about, here like their diet and everything else. Can you imagine?
Honestly, what were you going to eat after practice or going before practice? What were you eating?
Well,
Whatever
just
you can find.
Whatever,
Bologna
whatever.
sandwiches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I
Well,
don't know what the hell we ate.
What was your did you guys have pregame meals?
Oh, yeah.
You
Oh,
did?
it's the old steak. Load up on all the wrong stuff, make you feel even more loggy. It was the steak deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I don't know what they have, spaghetti or whatever. I don't know.
Oh, it's a smorgasbord.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of advances that way in the strength
Yeah.
training. That's what I miss that we didn't have.
Were you, I always interested about the term instincts, because if we have 50 guys in a room that never played football, if we teach them one rep to make a play, what percentage of those 50 guys are going to have instincts to play the game? Now you have to have the athleticism to do it. Your instincts were insane.
Well,
Was it the geometry of the game, the angles, or how would you define your instincts?
well, the way I would explain it to you is that, I was always, since I was 8 or 9, because I was the youngest of 9, and a couple of my brothers played organized. Ronnie, he played with the Cardinals for a year or whatever. So I always looked up to them, and like I said, I lived on 103rd Street there, and we had a decent sized front lawn or whatever, and a picket fence, and so I got the old Skippy jar, and that's what I used for a tee and start kicking, because they wouldn't let me play with them over at Fernwood Park there on the south side. So I just I would, the neighbors must have thought I was something wrong with me, because I'd play by myself. I'd, run and play like I got tackled, and all that stuff carried over to when I got to high school.
Huh.
And I was so into the game. A lot of trivial things, and that's why at CVS, I kicked, I punted, I kicked off, I kicked field goals. I never stepped off the field, and that's the way I liked it. So.
And the story goes, you would have been a potential Hall of Fame center.
Well, that's what Gibbon wanted me to switch over if I couldn't play linebacker anymore, and I probably could have if I made up my mind to do that. But
you had a lot of good friends as centers over the years,
yeah,
especially in the division.
Yeah, I used to have fun with them.
You were an instigator.
Well, I used to have a lot of fun. Everybody thought I was so serious, but Joe Cap would kneel down facing the defense. They'd have the circle huddle, but you can get somewhere where you can see, and you just read his lips. And then at the end, after he tells you to play, quarterbacks always go on 2 or on 1.
Yeah.
So they'd come to the line, and then I just real serious, hey, Mick, don't forget it's on 2. And he'd be, he'd look up for the snap like that. I said, everybody, it's on 2, and they're just like.
Is there anybody that you didn't get a lick at that you wish you would have?
Maybe Bradshaw, one more time at Bradshaw.
How did you handle losing? And what would you say to players that are still trying to learn how to win?
Well, I don't think I would be a very good person to talk about losing, because I would take it personally. No matter what, like I was telling Tremaine, I said, there's my motivation throughout the years was that you're never going to play a perfect game, so that there's no resting on your laurels. You can always do better, and that's what happened when I guess I thought if you lost, you had to feel bad all week, and. But maybe that was my incentive to do, work extra hard on different things to avoid that happening. I mean, how can you explain I get Defensive Player of the Year when we win one game?
1969.
Yeah. So I always had that attitude that there is no perfect game. There's always something, an extra block you can make, you got an extra tackle or whatever. You just never know how important it is. And now I was telling Tremaine, what do? I figure out what, guy, they toss a pass to John Mackey, breaks it, and he's, 30 yards downfield, and so you run up to him, and so what are you going to do? You're going to drag him down and make a tackle, or could you grab him and try to punch the ball out? There's no other offensive players around. And so what if he gains 5 more yards? He's already made the first down. And a number of times it actually happened. So that's one way of almost not accepting a defeat. Here's a guy breaking a long one for a touchdown that should be a touchdown, and you stop him. So there's always something extra you could do, and that's why I like playing on all the teams. Kickoff. Well, I didn't play in the kickoff after my first or second year, but everything else I was on all the special teams. I just didn't want to get off the field, so. And that's the way it is. I would think it'd be pretty hard to find someone who loved to play the game more than I did. I don't know. It's maybe a cliche, but I'd put up the time that I thought about it and worked on it all those years against anybody. Yeah.
Tommy knew he was going to be a football player in the 5th grade, like you.
Yep. I mean, that's the way we were raised. He's raised on the South Side. I'm raised in Joliet. When Pop Warner football came into existence here in Joliet, Rocky Carnegie, the head coach, came over to our house and told my mom, I know you have 2 sons. We need them for Pop Warner football. Be at Pershing Field on this reporting date, and the rest is history.
So what were you going to, at the outset of the program, you said you had a Butkus note. I thought.
Okay, so one time we're going to have Jim Morrissey on, who ended up wearing number 51, and he tells the greatest story of the first time he came face-to-face wearing number 51 as Dick Butkus walked in the locker room. That's a story that Jim is going to have to tell us. But I asked Dick Butkus one time about the Rocky movie when he named his dog Butkus. And I said, did Sylvester Stallone call you beforehand and ask you if he could name his dog Butkus? He goes, no, he didn't, but Dick Butkus has acting in his background. So he says, no, but I did run into Stallone at one time, and I said, hey, where's the residuals? What do you know? You name your dog. And it was kind of a funny back and forth that they had, and it was out of respect that Sylvester Stallone named his dog Butkus in the movie. But there was never a pre-phone conversation say, hey, Dick Butkus, we're going to name our dog after you, and he's going to play a major part in the movie. But I just think it's funny that it's football respect, it's the video respect that Butkus has. He talks about the love of the game, but then how does it spill over generations and years after? One of the greatest movies ever made, and the first Rocky, and they named the dog Butkus in Philly. That's pretty impressive.
I will tell you, as he was sitting there contemplating with that final quote, which is the greatest way to end that interview, few, if any, love the game more than me, and he got emotional. He did. He got emotional. It still means everything to him. The game, the game he played, the game he played when he played it means everything.
I kind of got a kick out of him talking about the stadiums that he played in, whether it's Wrigley or County Stadium in Green Bay when they played half the games in Milwaukee, half the games in Green Bay. But in 1984, 1983, when Mark Bort started to play offensive guard for the Bears, I saw this video clip when we were preparing for Green Bay the next year. He was rounding the corner in the end zone, and he stepped on that board that was the edge of the end zone in County Stadium. And he twisted his ankle so badly that he had a severe sprained ankle from it. So whether it's Butkus talking about his era or, update it into the era that I became a part of the Bears and seeing that video of that, it's just – there's something that he talks about that is an ignition switch or reminds me of an event of, not his era, but of an era gone by.
We're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears, and Busy Hard Seltzer, the official hard seltzer of the Chicago Bears. All right, news around the league today, Tommy. Practice squads for all 32 teams will be expanded in 2024 to allow for one international player each team. Part of that growing international initiative. There are plenty of those players on rosters now, including one here for the Chicago Bears. How do you feel about it?
I'm all for it. I love to see development of an athlete that maybe has a unique skill set or a size that you look off in the distance, you go, wow, look at that guy. I would love to have a chance to work with him. So it's from the full spectrum of skill set, speed, size, unique talent that, is developable. And so I would like to see him, but as much as them playing on a practice squad, I would like to see them first get reps in the USFL or the XFL to get some actual game type of play and then step onto the NFL field. I think you'd become more competitive sooner.
Yeah, Roy Mbedeka, he's offensive lineman here for the Bears. He was with the Giants on their practice squad last year and remains on the Bears practice squad now. Most of these guys are defensive linemen, edge rushers, offensive linemen. They're big guys, that's for sure. Chris Jones could make up to $25 million this year. He still could be tagged, but he's back with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm sure he'll play a little bit this week, but you'd expect him to be there when they meet the Bears in Kansas City.
Yeah, and a fresher Chris Jones. My belief that on third and obvious that he would be in the game this week.
Jason Peters at 41 signing with Seattle. Thoughts?
Amazing. It's a credit to Jason Peters. Here's a guy that's ready and prepared to go in and play, and maybe he needs 6 or 7 days of preparation, and more power to him. Congratulations, and I wish I had the opportunity to play at 41.
You could have if the back didn't go, right?
No, I mean, if it was the modern day football, I think I would have been able to. I kept myself in shape, and I was still playing a lot of competitive sports at that age, and it just would have been fun to be that old in the locker room and trying to deliver positive messages to kids that you need them to work harder or put more effort into their preparation.
Take a chance. Download the Bet Rivers app today. Final thoughts as we look ahead to week 2, 12 o'clock the kickoff from Tampa, Florida, where it's expected to be warm, muggy, and possibly rainy. What are the keys to victory, Big Tom? What are the keys?
To me, I think the Bears, if they run the ball successfully, they can expose some defensive coverages if they run really aggressive play action passing. And they have to go out there and run play action as it looks exactly like a run on the line of scrimmage. Then you get those defensive backs peeking in the backfield, saying, where is Justin going to go? Who's gonna get the handoff? And I think it'll allow Justin to have more obvious pass opportunities than if you have a drop back and straight protection in the throwing game. You talk about play action, then you're talking about getting Cole Kmet involved, getting the running backs involved, giving the offensive line a chance to fire off the ball aggressively, but not have that blocking, a run blocking assignment, more of a sustained run fake assignment. But it's got to be aggressive. You got to be able to fool the defensive line of scrimmage by making it look like run, knowing the whole time you're going to throw the ball.
All right, for me, it's just protecting the football, especially on the road. That'll be the demise if you can't protect the football. And obviously, defensively, figure out a way to calm down Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I mean, yep. I know it's never that simple, but I know everyone's going to talk about and watch very closely third down on both sides of the ball, what happens there, and if the Bears are going to push the ball down the field and whatnot. But you got to start with those cornerstones and figure out a way to stop those two guys, and hopefully you'll lead to a victory and be 1-1 heading into week 3.
Got to get to Baker Mayfield, though, Jeff. The last thing before you let me go is I really am happy for Tariq Cohen.
Oh, yeah.
He signed with the practice squad of the Carolina Panthers.
Yep.
And for a guy, what he's been through in the last few years of his life, and then the growth that we got to watch from Tariq Cohen from the first time we did an event with him to the last time we did an event, I'm really pulling for him. Yeah. And I hope that he succeeds in Carolina. And Frank Reich, who's familiar with him from when he just burst onto the scene in the league, I hope Tariq really has an opportunity to expand his career. He's a 28-year-old young man, and so I wish the best for him.
Yeah, he's quite the fight. No question about it. Personally, and then obviously professionally with the injury that happened on that punt return several years ago. All right, that's going to wrap us up, Tom. We're brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer of the Bears. Tastes like Miller time, Chicago. Back with you next Tuesday for our Bears-Bucks review and our weekly conversation with head coach Matt Eberflus. Bears Weekly, Thursday night, 5 p.m. ESPN 1000, a special edition joined by Watto and Sylvie from Hallis Hall. And again, noon, Bears and Bucks on ESPN 1000. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe now on the Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, Tom. Bear down, buddy.
Yeah, Big Jeff.
We'll talk to you next time.